Hi, my name is John Messina, host of Hey Coach, and welcome to another edition. Here we have a good friend of mine coming down the home stretch of his career, Dan Comeau, who's the athletic director at Treasure Coast High School. Welcome again, Dan.
Thanks, John. It's always great to be on the show.
Now, here's the first question. You got the calendar up with the dates, and you're pulling each date off?
89 days, John.
You sure? How many hours, minutes?
Well, up to 2 o'clock, 89 days.
89 days after 2 o'clock. You count vacation days and weekends too?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can knock them out, but it goes quick. We're going to talk a little bit about your career, which you had a wonderful career in athletic administration, and also we're going to talk about the changes in high school athletics over the years. But first of all, Dan, let's talk about your background.
Okay. I came to Florida in 1981. I was working with a manufacturing company on the defense systems, and did not like it.
Yeah.
I missed the kids, and I missed coaching, so I got back into it in 1994. Coached football for 3 years with John Moranto in the New Smyrna Beach Barracudas.
Right. And John was from Miramar. And
Yes,
came up,
yeah,
came
he's
up
he's a legend in high school sports,
yes,
and I was fortunate enough to be his defensive coordinator. He got the job at Mainland and suggested to the principal that I take over the athletic director's spot.
Okay.
And I was there for a couple of months, and the principal got moved to Pine Ridge High School in Deltona, and I spent 10 years there. And they were opening up a new school in Port St. Lucie. It was Treasure Coast High School, and I applied, and I was fortunate enough to get that job. And what a unique experience it was to open up a new high school.
Right. Now, did Treasure Coast have a name when you were coming down? Did they have a name, or were you part of naming the school?
They had just named it the Treasure Coast Titans.
Right.
It was a school AAA at one point. And I think a couple months before I got there, the name Titans came in. I guess there was a big controversy between the Treasure Coast Pirates and the Treasure Coast Titans. And the Titans
I like the Titans, though.
Yeah.
As you were growing up and you getting into athletics, who was your big influence? I guess you said Coach Moranto and a few other people, but who really influenced you?
There was a high school coach that we had, and he played for the Chargers, and his name was Dick Farley. And, of course, my parents didn't want me to play football because, you know, it's a rough sport. But I was playing hockey.
Okay, which is not a rough sport,
no.
right? Okay.
But, you know, he was a huge influence and a great mentor for me as a student growing up through high school. Mr. Urbanski was the hockey coach at Salem State University, which was a big influence, too.
Differences between high school athletics up north and high school athletics down here. Now, I know the weather, I know they have hockey, but what do you think the biggest difference?
I think the difference is the emphasis on the different kinds of sports. I think football is king in Florida. Hockey is not.
Right.
Basketball, both. Lacrosse is big up there.
Yes, it is.
Field hockey is big up there, and we don't see that much of it down here.
And the seasons are a little bit
The seasons are different. Yeah,
okay.
Soccer is played up there in the fall against football, which is
It's tough.
it's controversial because you have kids that want to play both.
Right, and the use of facilities also there too. You had some great years at Treasure Coast, okay, and you could talk about the Treasure Coast family a little bit.
You know, we've had Coach Jones, I think this is his 10th year as our head football coach, and he came up with a slogan years and years ago, and it was Titan born, Titan bred, and that has stuck with us, all the T-shirts that are made for our school, and it's made us a family, not only in sports, but in the clubs and in the academics. It's a close-knit family from the administration on down.
Right. I always noticed that. I noticed how you guys always stuck together a lot closer than a lot of other schools on that. And that's a compliment to all you people from your different principals you had over the years, you know, starting with, you know, Dr. Helen Roberts and way down. You guys were always very close to
Yes. Dr. Roberts put together a great team. And as you look at the district now, there's a lot of people that were on that team that are running different schools right now.
Right, and administrators. And it's a credit to Dr. Roberts and everything else. Now, this is a tough question for you.
Okay.
Your most memorable time at Treasure Coast. You can give me more than one.
You know, signing day is a very special day for me. It's a time when you have your athletes, not only, we all know they're great athletes.
Right.
But not only that, but they have taken their academic responsibilities and put that into place to be able to sign on signing day as a full-fledged college student, having done everything they were supposed to do. And the year, I think it was Jeff Luck, we had, I want to say 12 or 13 students up on that stage. We signed a number of students as the year went on.
Right.
But signing day, we had to bring in rafters, tiers to put the kids on it because there were so many. It was a great time.
How about in different athletic accomplishments for teams? What do you think stands out?
I think our girls basketball team that was headed by Roger Dorio.
I knew you were going to say that. Okay.
He took the team to the state final game.
Right.
Lost to Booker T. In Miami. But what a great time that was to watch those girls excel in what they did.
And the run was fun.
The run was fun.
Each game building more and more.
Long trip to Lakeland, but it was worth it.
Yeah, I know. Those games are great. I mean, the whole school's behind you and everything. You know, I was fortunate to go to a few of them, and that was, it's really something special. What do you think you're going to miss the most?
I'm going to miss the accomplishments, the small accomplishments of the kids, to see them come from behind and to see their faces when they take a win, or to see their faces when they take a loss, but learn a lesson in that loss. Right.
I think I feel the same way. I know, I'm helping over in Martin County now with the baseball. And just talking to the young men all the time, something about baseball, something not about baseball, you miss that. And I think when we were administrators, and we'll talk about our positions down the road, it's tough because we don't have time for that interaction with the students, which we wish we could. I think as athletic directors, we wish, we're there to coach the coaches, but we're there also to deal with the students, the individual student athletes. And we had so many different jobs and requirements that we had to do, and it seems as the years went on, we were getting more and more, that we never had time for the one-on-one or the group-on-one with the individual teams.
Quick story about one of our wrestlers a few years back. His name was Theo Jerv. Yeah. As you know, we have to have a 2.0 to participate. Right. Well, he had a tough time his senior year, first semester, and we were going to have to bench him for wrestling the second semester, and I called him in one-on-one. We had a father-son talk. Theo, if you're not at a 2.0, I'm not even going to let you buy a ticket to go to wrestling anymore. You have got to have that 2.0. Right. He cried. He came in my office when the grades came out. He was at a 2.000. He was able to wrestle, and he ended up going into the state finals his senior year.
And it makes you feel good. It makes you feel good for what they did.
Yes, and he's currently wrestling at Ellsworth College in Idaho.
Right. I know, Dan, you had the same philosophy that I did. And first of all, I think our good friend Michael Stutzy used to say the average span of an athletic director is 3.5 years. Well, you were an AD for how many years?
25.
And I was 30, so it's 55. So we kind of beat the span. I was first AD in 1983. And so many things have changed over the years. But I think the philosophy that you and I kept, we're the athletic director. Our names are in the background. We don't want our name in the paper. Because usually if our name's in the paper,
it's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing, Let the student athletes get the credit, let the coaches get the credit, but athletic directors that put their names, it's all about me. It's not about you.
No.
And you go, but here's a topic, and I hope we got enough time to just finish this one topic. The changes in the Florida High School Athletic Association over the years, and the changes in high school sports. I mean, when I first started, 30-something years ago, you never saw high school sports on TVs. Now they got teams that really don't care about the state championship anymore. They're trying to win a national championship. But what do you think are some of the big changes?
I think there are a lot of good changes that have come through high school sports, but I think there's a lot of pressure on the kids. Everybody says kids have changed. Kids don't change. Yeah. It's the adults and the media around them that change. Right. You look at kids now, they're being pressured with their test scores. They're being pressured by colleges. They're being pressured by Facebook. They're being pressured by their parents. Look what just happened at the college level with high school kids and the
admissions.
millionaire people.
Yeah, the admissions,
You know,
yeah.
parents today, many of them don't have a realistic view of their child. And obviously, if you're going to put a child in a college on a rowing team and they've never rowed a boat before, there's a problem.
Right, right. And also, you know, parents think it's that easy to get scholarships. It's not.
It's not.
It's the role of the parent and the student first to get the scholarship. It's the role of the coach and the AD to help them, okay? And again, times have changed with the grades. We talked about years ago when I first started being an AD, you had to have a 1.5. But you had to check the grades each quarter. And the paperwork was so much less back then. I'll tell you a funny story. Back then we had something called a pink sheet where we can get a kid eligible within 3 minutes. And all you had to do was put their name, spell it right, which sometimes was a problem when you were typing it in, especially for me. Your name, did they pass 5 classes? They didn't ask you how many you took. Did you pass 5? Did you have a 1.5? Did you have a physical? Yes or no? Nothing else on that, okay? And it was 1 or 2 other things. So I remember one year we were going up to the state tournament, I think it was in the late 80s, and then Fred Roselle was the executive commissioner. So we're all ready to go. And back then, there's no cell phones. We're not doing anything on computer. We're not even faxing things. We had to take these pink sheets and mail them up, and they check them. And they just, you know, if there was a problem, they'd give you a call. Well, we're getting ready to go to the state tournament. I get a call from Mr. Roselle himself. And I says, this cannot be good, because I got paged over the loudspeaker at Pace. And the principal calls me into the office, and you know, we were good friends. She says, John, what is this about? I said, you think I know? So we sat there, and he says, you know, Mr. Roselle says, John, first of all, congratulations. This is 6 years in a row. You're going to the finals. Great accomplishment. I says, he's not calling me for this.
No.
He says, I'm looking at your pink sheet, your eligibility sheet. We called it pink sheet. They called it the eligibility sheet. He says, we got a problem. I says, what's the matter? He says, 3 of your players are ineligible. I said, Mr. Roselle, I said, you know, I'm not only the baseball coach, I'm the athletic director. And these students, we double check their grades. He says, well, it's not the grades. We got another problem. I says, what is? Well, I'm looking at the sheet now. I says, your starting pitcher is 105 years old, okay? Your second baseman 72, and your shortstop hasn't been born yet.
So they're all seniors.
Because you had to type them in back then on the sheet, so I mistyped it. But back then, you made a mistake. He says, John, are they good? I says, yes, they're good, okay? And there was no problem whatsoever. You know, nowadays, let's go through the amount of paperwork that an athletic director has to do now. It's a lot, right?
It's a lot.
It's a lot. You know, are those changes good or are those changes bad?
Well, you know, the technology, they said it's going to make it easier, it's going to make it paperless. It's not paperless, but you do have a lot more information to input into the systems. And for an athletic director who has no help, no assistant AD, no trainer, or no secretary,
Right.
it's an overwhelming situation. And that's why in the national average is 3.5 years for an AD, because when people get into this profession, they don't know what they're coming up against. There's a lot of schools that have ADs teaching, and they can't handle it all. They make mistakes, they get fined, and they get either asked to leave or they just lose it.
And in my case, when I made a mistake, everybody got a big laugh. Now they would have been ineligible, they would have not played, and we would have been fined. I mean, times have changed on that. Also, I think with the technology, and maybe this is just me speaking, it kind of takes the personal relationship out of everybody. I remember years ago when we talked to people up at the high school association, you knew everybody by their first name. They'd call you on the phone. Now, can you picture what half the people look like? Because everything's done on emails, you know?
Yeah.
And the same thing with our coaches now. We don't have a relationship where, you know, we're always talking to the coaches on emails or texts. We don't talk to them one-on-one on that, you know? So how do you feel about that?
It makes it more difficult. It used to be you'd be pick up the phone, call Justin Harrison. You know who you're talking to.
Right.
You have a rapport with him. You can call up there now, and they're very friendly. They're very helpful.
Right.
But they're all new people.
Right.
And things are going to continue to change up there.
Over the years. I think the two biggest topics for high school athletics, I felt in my last few years when I was doing it, were safety issues and also issues about transfer students, okay? What do you feel is the most important issue for the safety issue?
I think you have to have trainers on the field. It is, when you, especially at a soccer game, when you see a child go down and you have bags of ice and you can play mommy and that's it, and you have to call 911, those minutes count. They truly count. We've been very, very fortunate here in St. Lucie County that we haven't had any major injuries.
And I remember a bunch of years ago, we had a soccer game. We did have a trainer there, and we were playing you guys, and the girls were going down left and right, and we actually had 911 there and everything. I think that's the big issue. You know, it's almost you wish that the state legislature would mandate that each school has to have a trainer, okay? And too bad they couldn't do a combination where the trainer is a teacher, could teach some health classes, get the training room ready, and then have a supplement for them, because it's not just at the games. I think a lot of times we're covered with the games. You had EMTs and you had trainers at the games and you had ambulance at the game, but the practices and you know, especially you know, football in the spring, football in the fall, when they have every, you know, I don't know if they do 2 days as much as they do anymore. Also, I think there's got to be mandatory, not just watching a film, but, you know, I think you and I both agree we'd like to see classes for the coaches to go in to be trained on concussion awareness, you know, heat exhaustion awareness, you know, other things, heat dehydration, you know. How do you feel about that?
Well, not only that, John, and those are all good points, but we try at Treasure Coast, we have a plan. You know, we do fire drills, we do cold reds, we do things like that during school at the perfect time when the weather's great. But we try to have every team do an emergency situation practice so that we have a child who's down, we have a coach with them. Whoever knows, the next coach knows he needs to go out front and wait for EMT, because we have 7 entrances into the school. They never pick the right one. So we have that drill going on with our team so that when something does go down, it's efficient.
And you know, each year the teachers go to classes and in service to improve themselves. You know, coaches should be that too, and it shouldn't just be a film. You know, again, we're getting on the interpersonal level, okay? You know, I always felt it's always better, you know, to have a one-on-one, or when I mean a one-on-one, you have a teacher so you could ask questions back. And I know you have done a lot of seminars, you have done a lot of mentoring programs, I have done the same thing. And it's always good, you know, I don't want to see Dan on film. I want to see Dan in person. So, geez, Dan, maybe I don't fully understand that. You know, I know. Tell a little bit about your mentoring program.
Well, years ago, the FHSAA asked the FIAAA to come up with a plan to mentor ADs, because there were a lot of fines going out. And the fines weren't because they were intentionally not doing their job. They didn't know what their job was because they're brand new. They get thrown in there. Principal says, you're the AD. Yeah, okay, what do I do? And she says, I don't know. And you're stuck, and you don't want to reinvent the wheel. So I put together a plan. We have 18 different district directors throughout the state. And when we have a new AD, the FHSAA contacts me. I contact the district director, and he matches that athletic director up with a seasoned athletic, I won't say old, but a seasoned athletic director, so that they have a mentor that they can talk back and forth to and give tips to. We also have we have a newsletter that goes out quarterly to all athletic directors, and the conference in May has really turned into a huge deal where you do have that one-on-one with people. It's a 3-day conference. It's in May. We try to keep it when there's not too many sports going on, but you're in the middle of baseball.
But you're going to run into something.
You're going to run into something. And we have a lot of hands-on. It's 10 hours a day for 4 days, 3 or 4 days, that they're learning things. And
You know.
it's a good, personable thing, and it's the relationship that ADs make during this conference is immeasurable.
I think that's an absolutely great program. I know when I was starting, I wish I had it when I started many, many years ago. The only situation I see is that you do have a fellow AD to call, but each district has different requirements to be an AD. Some might teach classes. Some might have, 10,000 duties. Some might be opening up locker rooms. I always was very lucky. The one thing I always stayed away from was bus duty at the end of the day, because the end of the day, for an athletic director, when that bell rings, you got, 10,000 kids running your office. You got to make sure your buses are okay. Are your fields ready? Are you getting the locker rooms open? There's so many other requirements that you have to do. And some counties, athletic directors are administrators. Some counties, athletic directors are teachers. Some
Right.
counties have secretaries. Some counties don't have secretaries.
The Department of Education doesn't recognize the job of athletic director.
Right.
You're a teacher on assignment. Some counties have them, like you said,
Right.
you have to be an assistant principal. Some you're just a teacher. I'm a teacher on assignment.
Right.
I'm a social studies teacher.
Right.
I haven't taught for 25 years, but
Right.
and then some counties actually let clerks become athletic directors.
Or assistant athletic,
or assistant athletic director. I don't mind the bus duty in the morning.
Yeah.
I don't mind the lunch duty because I get to interact with the kids.
Sure, I like that
But
too.
at the end of the day, it's a busy time.
Because you just don't know what's going to happen. If the other team's calling and say their bus is delayed, you got to check the weather.
Or if you have a weather issue, yeah.
Weather
and,
issue.
that's been going on the last few weeks.
I know, definitely on that. Probably one of the biggest issues that has happened in high school sports in Florida over the last few years, and I think both of us knew this was coming. I'll never forget, I think we were up in Orlando, and Dr. Deering, who was the executive director at that time, sat down and talked to all the ADs, and especially our group here, which we had about 15 or 16 ADs, about that. They passed a rule where you actually can transfer for athletic reasons. Now, it doesn't say for athletic reasons. You can transfer from one school to another school if two things are happening. Number one, they have an opening. Number two, you have your own transportation. Well, number two is never going to be a problem.
No.
Because they'll find. Number one, some cases it's not a problem. If you're 6'8" and 250 pounds or whatever, you wish you would look at your academics a little bit more. It was the intent of the legislature to let them go academically, which I fully agree with, okay? If you want to go to this school and you think that's better academically. But then, a lot of people throw in, and a lot of people go by the book, a lot of people don't go by the book, okay? We're going to go from one school to the next school. Now, not just in this area, but all throughout the state, this has been a major problem. And if I'm not mistaken on this, the FHSAA has kind of washed their hands and said each school district has to monitor it itself. Is that about right?
That's pretty much it, because it's very complex. We need to get back to basics. High school is an educational institution.
Right.
It is not a sports complex. College sports and pro sports, that's entertainment sports. We are here to teach kids educational sports, how to time management, how to set goals, how to do the different things that you don't really learn in the classroom. They need to get back to basics. And I'm going to say it, it's parents.
Yeah.
Your child is here for an education. Sports is an extracurricular activity. It's not a requirement.
Right.
If you want to play sports, fine, play sports. But give that sense of loyalty to that child, that you play for Treasure Coast or you play for Port St. Lucie High. That is your school.
The community base is gone.
Yes, it's
gone. And
the parents are, what they're doing is shopping.
And you can't fully blame the parents because the law is there. And I still think it hasn't been exposed as much when people realize, geez, we only need, 4 golfers to win a state title, or 5 golfers, or 4 bowlers, or 2 tennis players. They're gonna do that. And then there has been cases where they have gone, not in this county, not in this county at all, but I know counties that they have went to another school, played the sport, did very well, and came back to the original school to graduate.
Well, I might have to say it's done in this county too.
And see, that's a shame on that. But, you know, I wish there was something that we all can do, you know, to limit this. You're all going to do it or you're not going to do it, you know, or somebody does it and somebody does do it, and it takes away. And I always felt like you said, you know, I came from a small town in New Jersey where, geez, we can remember their grandparents played on this team. And you know, this guy lives across the bridge, so he's not going to play on our team. There was, you know, there were the lines.
It's just the way it was.
And it has changed. And I think, you know, if you look at the NCAA now, with all the graduate transfers they're having. So if you got a year of eligibility left, you know, the quarterback from Alabama went to Oklahoma. The quarterback from Georgia went to Ohio State. So therefore, the Ohio State quarterback went to Miami. And the NCAA, you know, they all had graduated, okay, which I give them fully credit for, okay, but then they all had a year of eligibility left. And the NCAA kind of threw their hands up and said, wait a minute, we're letting everybody be eligible.
Yeah.
And they are. I think if I read right, it was about 85% that they had the hearings. They just declared the backup quarterback at Ohio State last year came to the University of Miami, which kind of makes me happy, but came down here and became eligible because Ohio State took the backup quarterback from Georgia. And everything has a trickle-down effect,
Yep.
and we're going to see that. Well, we got about a minute and a half left. Okay, I'm going to make you executive director of the FHSAA. Okay, you got a minute and 20 seconds. What change would you put in?
Well, I would certainly like to meet with the legislatures and come up with some type of ruling where we would have a committee at each district to look at transfers that are going from school to school to see if we can have even retired athletic directors and have a judgment call on, is this child leaving just for sports reasons? Or is it truly academic? Right. And I think that's important. I think loyalty to your school is going out the window quickly.
Right. And they used to have a rule, you couldn't follow your coach if you played for a summer league coach or a fall ball league coach, and that coach went to a different school. You couldn't follow him. That's not a rule now. But anyhow, Dan, I want to thank you.
Thank you, John.
How many total years?
25 years.
25 years, and you have done a wonderful job. You've been a great friend. We had some great times, you know. Treasure Coast and Centennial always had good, you know, we had hard-fought games, but they were always great games, and, you know, a lot of great memories. And I know you're going on to another chapter of your life now.
Yep, I'm looking forward to buying a ticket at the gate to go to a game.
You'll get a pass. We'll find a pass. But listen, I want to thank everybody, and welcome to another edition of Hey Coach.